The latest version of the Exodus Crash Strike is this week's Grandmaster Nightfall, and it's more annoying than the previous version, but I think in a good way. It's not a pushover strike, but it's also not the hardest strike in the world, and unlike the previous version where it threw 8 billion champions at us, and don't get me wrong, this one also throws a lot of champions, there's also things in this strike that are manageable and in your control and are still dangerous, like the Salvation Captains, the Dustfield Shanks, there's vehicles, etc. But if you master this strike, you can speed up your strike time by a large margin. For example, like if you're first going in and you're blind, it'll take you maybe 20, 25, 30 minutes, whatever it may be. But if you start learning the strategy, you could easily cut your runtime in half. And this week, that's especially important because this week, not only is it double loot, but it's also Adept Warden's Law, which is one of the most sought-after Nightfall weapons in the entire game. Also, on top of that, it's double shards, double ciphers, and I guess most recently, double strange coins, which means you get 20 strange coins per run. Xur is about to break records this weekend. So let's get started. Team comps. I think any class can do this GM, so you can do whatever team comp you'd like, although I will say the melee-based prismatic builds that everyone and their mother are running probably struggles a little bit more in this GM, just because of all the hazards, you know, Dustfield Shanks, Exploder Shanks, electric floors, trip mines, yada yada. So you could probably still run those builds, but it'd be a little bit more of a hassle than previous weeks. In particular, I think Tether, Golden Gun, and Well shine a lot here, specifically for the middle room with the plate capturing, and then in the boss room, it'll make more sense once we're talking about those, though. For weapon recommendations, I'm never going to stop recommending Outbreak Perfected, especially in multiples in GMs. It is so criminally good, and it charges your meters incredibly fast, as you'll see in the footage below. But in terms of other weaponry, it's Arc Surge and Solar Surge, so try to match to those if you can. Additionally, it's also Overcharged Rocket Launcher, so if you don't have like an Apex or a Crux, you can just use any rocket and it'll do just fine. For base weapons, in terms of champion needs, there is Barrier Champions and Overload Champions in this. For Barrier, if you're rocking Outbreak Perfected, you're already covered because that pulse alone will shred through the shields. And then for Overload, there are a couple of things you can do. You can stun Overloads with something like Overload Hand Cannon, or even go with abilities such as Dust Fields or a Hunter Dodge, but I personally think Divinity is the best go-to for this. I know, shocking, Divinity, I know. But Div not only helps with the Overloads, but it also gives you the free crits, which again will play a part at the end of this Nightfall to just make the boss room an absolute joke for anybody. As for the Nightfall layout itself, let's go to the beginning. So at the start, you fight off a bunch of trash mobs and then one Barrier Champion. Nothing too crazy. Once you deal with them, the RNG begins of the layout. So at the start, there's 3 lanes, left, middle, and right. 2 of the lanes will have lasers, and 1 of the lanes will have like 2 or 3 Vex. It's RNG which get placed on which, so just keep that in mind. But either way you cut it, you want to go to the right. If it's enemies, just kill them. If it's lasers, shoot all the lasers on the right. The reason for this is because you can get on your Sparrow, or your hoverboard if you want, and then just hold right about halfway through the track. At this point, you can get off and shoot the snipers down with a sniper rifle if you'd like to just get rid of them right away, or you can go straight to the end. Doesn't really matter. The ships, once you're off your vehicle, don't really one-shot you, so you can shoot the turrets down if you'd like, and then deal with the snipers, or vice versa. The snipers, then the ships. Once you're towards the end, you want to kill the one Overload Champion that's on the ground on the bottom floor, and then do not go up the left side, because there's going to be a brig waiting for you up there. Instead, what you can do is you take the lift on the right-hand side and go up there as a team. From there, you will get a ship that spawns in with a couple of trash mobs again and 1 Barrier Champion, and nothing crazy to deal with. Kill them, and from here, you should not only have your prismatic built, especially if you're running Outbreak Perfected, but then you have free reign on the brig from here, and he can't really hit you unless you're standing still completely. And in my case, on Hunter, I just utilize my smoke and my grenade, and I non-stop spam it at him with my sniper in there in between once his cage is off, and he dies really easily. Just press forward and do the exact same thing until the Fallen and the Vex with the Hydra are dead, and you pick up the Cranium, dunk it in, and proceed forward. Moving along a little bit forward, straight into the plate room. So a lot of this has stayed the same, but there are some noticeable difference in this room. First, there will be periodic snipers spawning on the right-hand side on the rafters, or the beam, whatever you want to call it. There'll be a Sniper Shank, or there'll be a Sniper Vandal, or they'll just alternate. Keep an eye on those. I think they spawn in every 20 or 25%, so just keep an eye periodically on there so you don't get randomly sniped in one shot. Now for general enemies, the first 50% of this room are going to be mostly Overload Captains, Marauders and Vandals, the periodic snipers that I mentioned, and then some Shanks sprinkled in there between electric ones and Dustfield ones. And during the 50% mark and 100% mark of this plate room fight, you're going to have a Salvation Captain spawn in. The first one, the 50% one, is going to be a Salvation Captain that does the Shatter ability. Think the first one in the Glassway Strike, where he just lights up the floor, and then if you're near all the crystals, you're dead. And then the second one is going to be a variant just like in Onslaught, where you're doing the Rift section, where the guy just tries to freeze you non-stop, and then you just stand there like an idiot for an hour. So that is a key difference to keep in mind because of the way we set up our strategy. In the past, typically you would just pop a well on the circle while you're camping and be like, alright, that's cool, pop a tether, shoot my goalie, we're good to go. And that kind of works for the beginning portion of it, but once the captain does spawn in, it becomes extremely dangerous to stay in that spot, even if you do have well on demand, because once the crystals go down and they surround you, you have no line of sight on the boss, and if he shadows those crystals, you're all three dead and you're going straight to orbit. Instead, what you can do here is you go into the room, you get 250%, holding it down with tether, goldie, whatever, and then once it's 50%, you back up a little bit to the staircase of where you just entered from and pop well there. The crystals do not reach you back there. Also, the Marauders and random invis guys don't just come up on you and stab you in the back as they would while you're in the circle. From here, you can just kill the captain very easily, whether it's with Goldie or your heavy ammo, and then deal with the rest of the room accordingly. Once you dealt with the captain, now you can start dealing with any extra adds and overloads. Here, Div goes crazy because you just stun the overload, put a cage on him, and then you can Nighthawk him, you can rocket him, you can spam your Outbreak Perfected to get all your abilities back. Hunters can just pop Prismatic and then throw a smoke and a grenade on a captain. That'll stun them, it'll weaken them, and then you can just outright kill them with just 2 rockets on your own without even requiring a div. I'm sure other classes can do something similar, but I'm just giving you an idea. Now, as for 51% to 100, it gets a little bit more annoying because instead of getting a ton of overloads, now you get some overloads sprinkled in and then a billion barrier champions. And like I mentioned, when you get to 100%, you'll get a second Salvation Captain. Now, you could take it one of 2 ways from here. You could either take it slow and build up the meter as gradually as you would like and deal with the things in the room, or you can do what my team did and just build up straight to 100%, and once we do, we once again back up and then deal with the captain from a distance, because yeah, he can freeze you, but for the most part, if he's just freezing you from 8 miles away, that's not really going to do anything when you're in a well of radiance. And then again, if you have tether, Nighthawk, rockets, you can just bake him outright. Also, if you don't bake him right away, he kind of just slowly walks to you and gets on the plate, and then you kind of have free reign to do whatever you want with him because you can use the staircase to kind of head glitch him a little bit. Outside of that second captain, the main problem you're going to deal with is going to be the barriers and the yellow bar servers by far, because if you don't, they're just going to immune everything. And they're so incredibly annoying too, because the moment you put 1 bullet on them, they start teleporting non-stop like it's an episode of Dragon Ball Z, and they just teleport 20 times back to back to back. So ideally, you want to deal with those first before going into anything else like the Solar Shanks or the Invisible Marauders, etc. If you can, try to focus fire the barriers once the captain is gone, or if the captain's not up yet, try to get rid of as many barriers as you can. Once the captain is dead, it's pretty much cleanup time. Kill whatever remaining champions that there might be on the field, and then collect your ammo and go forward. This next part, the patrol part, it's nothing special, pretty straightforward. You kill stuff, you pick up the ball, you dunk ball, you get Scorch Cannon, and then you move on. Or at least, normally, that's what you would do. So here, to save a little bit of time and set up a proper loop for the next room, here's what you do. You kill the stuff, you get the balls, you dunk 2 balls in, and then you finish off the rest of the enemies, you know, the Overload, the chickens, etc. At this point, as your third player is getting the final ball to dunk in and get the Scorch Cannon, and this will be the part where you break the barrier, blah blah blah, have your other 2 teammates go up to the barrier and then simply ride to the side of it with your Sparrow, and then get off your Sparrow. You want to know what this does? It just lets you in. That's it. The barrier lets you in. That's what it does. Now, what you do with this information is those 2 people that go through the barrier, you go straight to the end. You go straight to the end where you would fight the spider tank right before you go into the boss arena. Now, what this does is once your third player does the Scorch Cannon portion and then walks forward through the loading zone, everything will then spawn in the next zone, but your teammates will already be at the end. They can immediately then spawn kill the turret from the ship that normally goes up in the sky above the walker, and then after that, they can just nuke the walker outright. By the way, quick tip, in this case, if you have a deconstruct Uzume in your energy slot, it cooks him for free. He dies very quickly. Then, once you kill him, all you gotta do is kill the barrier and then kill the Vex Minotaur. Everything else then will despawn and you can go forward. It takes only maybe 30 seconds to a minute. It's pretty free. Doing a little time skip again, we're finally in the boss room. The general layout for the boss room hasn't really changed. If you've done Exodus Crash in the past, you kind of know how it works. And in the past, we have sat on the left side of the arena and just kind of taken everything in from there. This is exactly what we're going to do again, except the spawns are slightly different, but the idea will stay the same. So what's changed in this boss room? Well, you get Fallen for the first 50%, and then Vex for the last 50%. But don't worry, we're going to almost entirely ignore all of that information. Also, one more thing, if you stand on one side of the arena too long, it seems like for example, you're going to see us on the left, periodically you're going to get fanatics to spawn in to kind of like get you out of from camping in the spot, I guess. You know they're coming, they do the animation, they spawn in, they die, they're not really that much of a threat, honestly. So, shoot them and then pretend like they never happened. But what we're mainly going to do is the following. First, you kill all the shanks but one and then get into your left side position. After that, you kill the last shank and the boss fight begins. Then, the boss will spawn in with a bunch of Fallen. All you're going to focus on is the boss. That's it. What you're going to do is call out if he's left or right, and then your div can start marking him. Once the div marks him, you know where he's coming from. Throw down a smoke/dust field or whatever stasis variant you want to put a darkness debuff on them. Then your Nighthawk's going to shoot the boss in the face, or in this case, the crit cage. What this does is it puts him to half. That's what it does. It puts him to half, and then he's gone. First 50% of the fight, done. Oh, did I also mention that when you do make the boss leave and despawn, he takes all the Fallen with him? So those are not even going to be a threat. They're just going to be gone. Now, for the second half of the fight, the Vex are going to be coming in. In this portion, what you really need to worry about is the Overload Champion and the Barrier Champion, which are going to be coming at you either way. Other than that, there's going to be Harpies in the middle, and then a Hydra in the middle that'll have a ball for you to pick up. So in this part, should you have a well, which I highly recommend, you would pop well here, and then if you have a tether, you pop the tether in the middle, and you go to town on the champions. Once they're both dead, focus on the Hydra and kill that. And once that is dead, you can then start focusing on the Harpies at whatever pace you'd like. Just remember to pick up the ball and get ready to dunk it once you're ready with all the Harpy stuff. Essentially, at this point, you want the Nighthawk player to have their Nighthawk back before you summon the boss back. So, if they happen to not have it back while you have the ball, don't dunk it yet, and instead just let the ball despawn. A Hydra should come back in, you kill the Hydra, get more energy, and then dunk the ball if you're ready to go. If not, tell them to put on Outbreak because they'll get it insanely fast, and there you go. So when the boss does come back, you're probably thinking, alright Sneak, so this is where the objective happens. This is where you have to do something in order to damage the boss, right? Surely he's not going to let you just obliterate him back to back within 2 seconds. Surely. You'd be wrong. You're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to call him out. You're going to mark him with div. The cage is going to be up. You're going to throw your dust field. You're going to become radiant either from your dodge or from getting in well and stepping out. Then you're going to fire at his stupid head, and he's going to die in a matter of 2 seconds from 2 different Nighthawks. Boom, you've completed Exodus Crash Grandmaster. And that is it. That is the Grandmaster Exodus Crash guide. Hopefully this helps you guys form out your double loot Warden's Laws and get that 4x Vorpal God roll. In the meantime, if you did enjoy the guide or the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to comment, leave Nighthawk as the comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.